Hello, guide community. Welcome to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast. Today, I'm joined by Brandon Drew, who is a technology investor with a deep passion for the entrepreneurial spirit startup ecosystem. He specializes in operational efficiency and building and scaling products that have achieved great market penetration, specifically in the software as a service space. He has opened subsidiaries in Poland, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and has operated development teams on various contents. Currently, he is a mentor at 500 startups in Highway 1, as well as an advisor and board member for various companies in the Bay Area. He enjoys an active lifestyle with his family. He's a three-time Ironman fisher and a marathon swimmer. And he's also just a great, positive guy. Today, we're going to be talking all things SaaS and a little bit about entrepreneurship as well, and what people who want to be aspiring entrepreneurs and want to build a great, sustainable business post-COVID-19 can learn and how they should approach it. So I'm really excited to have him on today. If you are super interested and excited about this episode, let me get your comments in the chat box below. I'm excited for this episode because I know we're going to learn a lot. Brandon, what's up, man?
How's it going? Thanks for having me, guys.
I thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for finding time to be on this episode. So let us know where you're tuning in from. Shout out to Theory Kudu, who is tuning in. Hey, where y'all tuning in from? Hey, Miriam, how's it going? So, Brandon, everyone's tuning in from all over the world right now, but I would love to share it and have you let us know, where are you at right now, man?
Yeah, we're based in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I'm a California native, born and raised in Los Angeles. Did my undergrad at a university called Cal Poly, which is in the mid part of California. Brief stint in Krakow, Poland, but relocated here and been here for almost 20 years now. So this is what I call home with the family.
Wow. So, let me ask you, man, when did your entrepreneurial kind of career start, man? Because even checking out SaaS Growth Ventures, before I met you and we had our call, it seems as if you've always been interested in building things. Where did that motivation start for you?
That is correct. I think I think this is for most entrepreneurs and founders, that you have a general curiosity that is just kind of in your DNA.
Yeah.
At a very young age, I was very into how things were put together, very curious of, simple things of how a hairdryer works. So you take it apart and put it back together. And I carried that on into my academics. When I went to Cal Poly, I studied a really great discipline called industrial technology, which is a cross between engineering and business. So it gave me that foundation for that entrepreneurial spirit that I carried on into my career. And I just was really excited and passionate about it. And I think that's what drives most founders, is you have to have an underlying itch to succeed and to keep pushing. That's where I think, when you talk with other founders and other entrepreneurs, that's where you get the little excitement, because you see the passion in their eyes. And that's what keeps me going every day and gets me excited to go to work every day.
Yeah. No. It's that natural curiosity. I could totally, similar to you, I could associate with that. It's like, what is the opportunity, right? Like, and what can we build for a better tomorrow? And I think often people, they lose that curiosity as they get older. It's almost as if like you get dispirited, corporate life starts to suck. I want to ask you, right? Because we kind of talked about this. What can entrepreneurs keep that curiosity alive, right? Because I think COVID-19 right now has caused a lot of entrepreneurs to, they're struggling, right? It's like, how do you adapt to this new changing environment?
Right. No, adapting to the new changing environment, I think as an entrepreneur, that is one of the hardest things that you have. Right now we're facing COVID. Before it was the dot-com crash, then the financial crash. There's always seems to be some sort of huge distraction that faces us every time and again. And so to keep that energy and motivation, you have to go back to basics. Why are we doing this and what are we trying to change?
Yeah.
And I think specifically as we look at COVID right now, we have to remind ourselves we only can control what we can control. This is out of our control. So to that end, what can you do to better your business and be defensible? How do you motivate, and especially as a founder, how do you keep your team motivated and not distracted? Is one of the core attributes that you need to kind of come back to, because right now I would say it's a more psychological game.
It's
because
true.
all founders right now are dealing with not only their teams, but also potentially their company might not be doing well, and they might have an increased burn. So you
Yeah.
have the stress and the weight of not only your team, but also the investors coming down on you.
Yep.
But then also your internal family, because everybody's working from home. And I know for me specifically, we have 3 kids at home. It's
Mm.
it's not easy, and my wife is carrying a lot of the weight on her shoulders, and I see the stress of her, which stresses me out. And it's this whole tumbleweed effect. But
Yeah.
what we can't do is get so wrapped up with all the news and the media, because especially here in the United States, and especially this last week, there's been an immense amount
Yeah.
of negative press, and it's troubling, right? So what we have to do is embrace the people around us, look at the data that we have in front of us, and make the best decisions with what we have. The benefit, I think, for at least within the tech field, is that we've already adopted for some time the ability to work remote. That's kind of been
Mm.
on the forefront of how we operate. I've specifically managed development teams on multiple continents, sales, and the like, in different areas of the world. So we've always been in this nimble. I feel like a nimble area, as opposed to let's just say service restaurant areas that are not able to do so. So I think we're a little bit more geared for it. But right now, I think what I feel is the hardest part for an entrepreneur right now is kind of sticking to the basics,
Yeah.
of building a solid business that is not relying on investment, but relying on, the balance of, again, going back to core business school, supply
Yeah.
and demand. Are you profitable? Are you not? And how are you going to get there?
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I think that they need to focus on.
It's true. It's true. And really, what's your value proposition? Right? Like, what is the fundamental problem that you solve? And I think that's so powerful, like supply and demand. No, seriously, it's like, what is your core value proposition?
It
Right?
is. And I think, we've gotten it in some ways. When I've talked with some of the companies that we're working with right now, at SaaS Growth Ventures, this is a good reset in some ways for businesses, because the last couple of years we've had a very frothy investment ecosystem, to where
Yeah.
if you have okay traction, but you still have burn, you're able to still raise capital, and people are fighting to give you money because they're trying to deploy it anywhere possible. But right now, it's really going to separate out the strong businesses from the weak ones. And I think this is going to be in some ways, a positive shakedown and consolidation within the tech space. And investors are going to now be forced to, we're already seeing this, investors are going to be forced to actually looking and identifying companies that have strong velocity in sales and revenue, and are defensible from a P&L and balance sheet.
Yep. Simple business fundamentals. And I think what's so crazy about it is that, you speak with a few entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, and you really do have to help them with the business basics, right? And even developing sales. I want to have you, Brandon, because, SaaS Growth Ventures does a lot of this with the entrepreneurs that you work with, man. Right. What have been some resources or guidance that you've given entrepreneurs that have allowed them to succeed on just basic business fundamentals?
Well, I mean, that's part of our mantra, is that, we're not necessarily just another early stage seed or growth investor. We provide more operational experience to our organization. So in some ways, some people have dubbed us as private equity operations that meets venture capital, because, we're at the stage of companies we're investing in. And so the tools that we look for are ones that are contextual to the organization, because some tools are great for some verticals and some are not, based off of ICP, or ideal client profile. And so you have to, there's no real single solution that will work for everybody. But I think what you have to do is look at the vertical, your ICP, and tailor the messaging, the value proposition to how they respond and how they react as a role within their field. And there's just some basics, right? You have to have, and we're a huge advocate of automation, but automation in the smart way, right? So like using strong email sequencing outreach. Obviously having a strong CRM so you can navigate, but having all those systems that are deeply integrated so that when you're doing outreach and you're nurturing a lead, because you can very rarely, it's a bluebird situation where you're going to get a lead that converts automatically. That's just time. And a lot of what sales is timing, right? So you have to be able to, if you're going to build a pipeline with, let's just say 1,000 leads with an SDR, how do you automate that process so that you're constantly in a timely fashion dripping on that person? Also looking for the intents and signals so that when the timing is right, you can capitalize on it. And again, I'm not saying it, a lot of what we do on a day-to-day basis with our companies is not rocket science. It's basics. But the problem is, and this is, I think, where we get so distracted, especially as a young founder, there's so much noise out there. Where do you focus on? How do you build a product properly? We go down a whole list of things that occur that will be distracted. Very rarely do you find the ability to build a framework and architecture system for a build process and stick to it. It's great to set it up initially, but if you're not diligent about it and you're not disciplined about it, then that's where it falls apart. And that's where we come in to help out our organizations, is developing that framework, leveraging data, and being really driven. Internally, we have a saying called data-driven decisions. I'm sure organizations have the same mantra, but do they follow it to a militaristic standpoint? Probably not.
Yeah. It's true. Literally, I think what's so powerful is that this idea of being data driven, oftentimes, because you can also match the qualitative with the quantitative, right? And, the qualitative aspect of sales and customer success and relationship building, that still is necessary, and I think moving forward it's still going to be present. But I think often the automation, the scale, what does the infrastructure look like at a high level is always missing. So I want to have you talk a little bit about, because you're sharing so many amazing suggestions. And I want to show love to some of the amazing people who are tuning in. Hey, Sajid, who's tuning in from Dubai, by the way, Brandon.
Greetings.
Miriam. Yeah. Miriam is tuning in from Muscat, Oman. Thank you so much, Miriam. And Angel, who's tuning in because she's super interested in one of the job opportunities at Guide. Thank you so much, Angel. Please make sure that you apply to a few of the roles that we have now. We're probably going to have a lot more roles coming out soon. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Because you were talking about founders earlier, Brandon, what are the characteristics of a great founder in your perspective?
Right. So for a great founder, I kind of break that into what I consider hard characteristics and soft characteristics. Hard characteristics, what I initially look for is, why are they building what they're building? What type of domain experience, and are they the expert in their field? Quite often, you have some entrepreneurs that see a business opportunity, but they're getting educated in the space. And the ones that are the best are the ones that have the domain experience and have seen a break and crack in the fissure of two different technologies and see an opportunity that they're willing to expand into. So that is one of the hard ones. Are they data driven and have the foresight to see patterns? I think you and I described this before in previous discussions, that technology comes in big waves, right? You have a technology boom that will start to fizzle out and create another technology boom. We can look back in history and see this. The world, and let's just go to the world, the inception of network computing was all proprietary. IBM, HP, and the huge monolithic, companies, they all proprietary networking technology. And then came IP, which standardized it and democratized it. Then you had an evolution of personal computing, within gave way to the internet, and the crackle gave way to the broadband, and all these innovations created a baseline platform for other technologies that came. And just in the recent years, we've seen a huge push towards cloud computing, big data, and the like. And so that's where, we look for within the entrepreneurs, bringing that back to your question, is, do they have domain experience? Do they use data? And what are they seeing as a pattern based off of what has been happening versus what is going on in the future? And does that make relevant sense? And does that, at the end of the day, the value proposition have economics behind it? But then we get into the soft characteristics of the founders that are almost equally as strong. Outside of the binary ones and zeros, are these guys good at what they do? Guys or girls good at what they do?
Yeah.
Have they built a decent business? do they have humility? Do they have empathy? And most of
Mm.
all, do they have hustle and passion? Now, these are easy to say that, when you're interviewing somebody, that they're going to be like, I'm very passionate about what I do, but you can see it
Yeah.
and feel it.
Yeah.
The benefit that we have as being prior founders, myself, my partner, Artem Gassan, and myself, both have several companies that we've co-founded and been co-founding employees for in the past with exits. So we sit, that's kind of what gives us a little bit of an, I would say, more compassion when we work with other founders, is because we've sat in the seat before and we can actually wear their hat. But we also, as we work with other teams now, we start to get an understanding of different characteristics and personalities. And right away, I can kind of tell if someone's extremely strong and we're going to be able to work with them or not. And again, we're not for everybody, and it's personality, right? You have to work with people that you enjoy working with. But that is just those are the top ones that we have. And then you have a waterfall effect of trust and building that and everything else. But the interesting thing too that we do with almost all of our employees, and this is again nothing new, but we're very disciplined about it, is we have our internal powwow that we go through on evaluating a founder, and then we also put them through a personality test, a divine test, to be exact. And I have to say that is just kind of the final nail in the coffin of whether or not we mutually agree, because that actually provides a pretty deep insight into any other aspects. And what we're looking for in that test specifically is if we're moving forward working with them, where their strengths and weaknesses are. It's not whether or not they have a great personality. We want to know where we can help backstop them on some strengths, like negotiating power or whatever skills that they might need. Because what we're trying to do is capitalize on their strengths and let them run with that, but also backstop where they might need some help as well.
And that's amazing that you all do that, because I think there's a lot of VC firms that don't even go that in depth with founders, right? It's more so of a transaction. You guys actually act as partners, operational partners,
That's
and helping them scale.
Yeah, that's exactly, I think you hit it right on the head. That's what we saw as we looked into the marketplace, being on the founder side. We realized that a lot of the traditional deployment of capital has been more of a numbers game, lack of better word, spray and pray model. But for us, because our strategy is to leverage our experience, and I think collectively with our entire team, we have over 40 to 50 years combined experience in the space, that our strategy is to sit side by side and help them mute out those learning curves so they can get from point A to point B at a faster pace. And in doing so, we have to sit side by side next to them. That's why, like I said before, we're not for everybody. We have to be, we all have to be in alignment, because we're going to have to make some hard decisions. We're not going to agree. And we have to be able to compromise in terms of what direction we have, and then be very disciplined and look in the data to see, did our decision-making process work? Where did we make mistakes? What assumptions did we have incorrect? What dynamics change in the marketplace? I could go on on that, but that's what's different, is that, we have, we're not looking for 1 in 10 companies to be successful. We're looking for, as I like to say, get on base 80 to 90% of the time.
I love it. I love it. And to that point, how do you see, leadership changing in the future of work? Because you were kind of earlier talking about the importance of being data driven, but also when you all are looking at founders, you want to ensure that they have the skills, the heart, and that personality fit, right? So how are you thinking about leadership in the future of work, and also in empowering some of the entrepreneurs you work with to be leaders through this time, right? And of so much change, I think now and beyond.
Right. So I think, again, nothing is necessarily new. We're just reminded of current factors that are out there. We've had it pretty nice. Like I said, we've had downturns before. That's what makes seasoned entrepreneurs seasons. They weather the storms. They know how to deal with their emotions.
Yeah.
And they realize that this is short-lived, hopefully,
Yeah.
In the scheme of life, it will be short-lived, but it seems monumental at this point in time. But it's not going to be over. And it's, once we get over this one big hump, we're going to probably have another one, in 5 to 10 years. what that is, I'm not quite sure. But what you have to do is be as nimble as possible. And like we said early on in this cast, is that you have to build a business based off of a defensible P&L and balance sheet. And that is the core. When we're working with our companies right now, trying to get them to Series A or Series B, we're not looking at just putting additional capital in to increase their run rate. We're trying to get them to narrow down that burn rate as fast as possible and trying to get them into the black in terms of positive cash flow prior to any additional rounds of funding, because that is, I think, the most important. I mean, at the end of the day, we're building a business. We're not it comes down to fundamentals again.
Simple fundamentals.
It's just a fact of life. I mean, it's physics, right? If you have 9 months of run rate right now, and you're not anywhere close to being profitable, you have to cut costs. You have to cut headcount. And you have to come up with a way to increase your revenue. And if not, you're not going to have any money to continue. And you're not going to be able to raise additional capital. So, we have to look at and just be realistic here of those realities. As I, talk with seasoned entrepreneurs that have been mega successful, one of the consistent response I always get when you ask what they would have done earlier. They wish they would have cut ties with employees that weren't cutting it, but they had a personal tie to them and kept them on longer than what they needed to. And I think that resonates now. I have a couple companies right now that I've had hard discussions with. They said, well, by September, if we're still not increasing our revenue, then we're going to have to cut headcount. Well, what's happened in the last 2 months that in your revenue, and what do you foresee in the next month is going to change? And if nothing demonstrable is going to change, then why wait that time period? Why not try and extend out your run rate a couple additional months to try and get past this downturn, and hopefully the market will change and your company will survive and your shareholders will be a little bit in better position. And those are hard discussions. It's not easy, and I don't take that lightly. But at the end of the day, you have a fiduciary responsibility as a founder to try and make the best decisions for the entity in a responsible way, right? And you can do things for your organization, like you see a lot of very smart, gracious founders out there that are very, very much in the news that are letting go, good swaths of their company, but of their employees out of their company, but extending out their health insurance for a year and a half, severance packages. They just realize that they can't sustain at this level. So you have to just make the best decisions you have with what you have in front of you, given the data.
Do you see any way kind of things changing in the long term for how entrepreneurs build businesses? That because there's a lot of technology out there now, even in tools that are kind of empowering entrepreneurs and companies to just empower your workers to build their own safety net. Do you think things are kind of going to be changing moving forward? I
think the momentum was there going over into the nation. I think that was due to economic conditions that were present within the large metropolitan areas already. We saw a huge gravitas of companies departing San Francisco specifically over the last several years, and putting teams in areas like Denver, Austin, Atlanta, to name a few. And now those areas are actually becoming more the next hotbed. And what they're trying to do is get economies of scale in terms of the workforce, but also the smart ones were also trying to get quality of life, because they realize that a lot of those employees, if they're making, the reality is if you're making 100 and 150K in the Bay Area, it's not the same as making it in the Midwest.
It's true.
That's a lot of money out there because of the straight factor. Cost of living is just skyrocketing. And everybody understands that. We already saw that happening. What I think now is going to happen is I think you're going to see a lot more people adopting fully remote work base, where they allow their employees to work from home permanently. And we already see some people in the news doing this. there were some companies that already had done this prior, and some people, and they were kind of paving the way of how do you do that from an HR standpoint? How do you keep collaboration going? And so we're starting to see some technology out there to help fuel that. I'm not out here to promote any technology companies, but there's, a couple of ones that are web-based, like walkie-talkie, where you can see all your team and you just immediately tap them and talk to them. So I think we'll see a lot more technology out there that's going to support that. Slack is a great example of distributed, workboard style of communication platform. So technology will embrace it. You'll see more distribution. But with that comes challenges, right? I'm a big advocate of face-to-face, especially when you're dealing with specific types of sales and or business decisions. There's nothing you can not, for me at least, maybe I'm a little bit old guard, maybe the new millennial and new generation will have different opinions on this because they're more digitized, less or large degree. But I'm an old-fashioned, let's get in a conference room and whiteboard, and we're not leaving until we solve a problem type of attitude.
Yeah. Similar. I'm similar, man. I'm similar. It's interesting. Remote collaboration is different because you just can't. I feel as if it takes away from creativity, actually.
It can, and I think there's also something to be said too about just the human presence, and I look as like we have to all be, we all have to be social distancing right now. I think it is wearing and tearing on the mental standpoint of individuals, either on a personal level and professional level. In some ways, I have some colleagues that are really excited about it because they get to work from home and they're saving about 2 to 3 hours of commute time.
Yeah.
At the same time, on the personal side, everybody's starving for be able to go out to a restaurant with some friends and clink the glasses and say cheers and just embrace each other. So, as much as we're going to swing one way, I think we'll come back a little bit as to center, That's, I think, the tendency is the pendulum swings one drastic way, and hopefully the consistent will be a vibration somewhere in the middle, where you'll have remote workers in disparate areas, but you'll still have a little bit of density of your team where you guys can get together at least a couple times a week. And, again, we've seen that before with development teams especially, but now I think with COVID-19 especially, it's going to be more prevalent.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And, the way you think about the business just changes, right? You want to optimize for density, but also, give people the opportunity to work remotely because it's there. And the technology infrastructure is there. I want to go into, what are some of the innovations you're expecting to see in tech and software as a service sector in the next few years due to COVID-19?
Well, even now outside of COVID-19 in general, I think, because COVID-19 is, again, just a mark in our place in time.
Yeah.
We'll create some, and I apologize, looks like I have some gardeners here at the house. So we're going to blow in our head any moment now. I think in general, outside of COVID-19, I've already started seeing some trends of disruptive technology that will be impacting tech and specifically SaaS. One of the biggest ones, I think, and I don't have my head wrapped around what it's going to be, but I see smart contracts and blockchain being a huge disruptor. From a security standpoint, anonymity, identity standpoint, we're not there yet, but we're already seeing decentralized apps coming forward. And I'm starting to see it being more prevalent in mainstream tech on the back end. What it means to the consumer, I look at it as equivalent to I can process a payment on my Vimeo account directly from my bank account. It goes directly to my friend. From a consumer standpoint, not that exciting. But from a technology standpoint, the API, the technology that supports it, it's pretty monumental, and we've seen that trend already happening in the previous years. So I see that being a huge push for disruptive change and adoption for some of the legacy platforms out there as well.
That's true.
Going back to the ups and downs of technology that, one has a huge peak. Let's just use cloud computing, big data. As that becomes more commoditized, then then there's going to be other technology that's going to be accelerating off the top of that as well. One of that is machine learning and artificial intelligence. We've seen a huge push of data collection and people trying to aggregate and have the ability to collect more and more data, unstructured. And now we're trying to structure that data and trying to make sense of it from an intellectual standpoint. And so I think that is going to be, and everything that supports that. That's coming down to computing power, to, et cetera, that will help foster that innovation. But we're already starting to see that with mobile analytics, geofencing, the data on the geo side, where you have billions and billions of data points that you need to matriculate to make sense of. So I think between the blockchain, smart contracts, I'm not talking about cryptocurrency, although that's a hot topic for another discussion that's outside of my pay grade at this point. Machine learning and artificial intelligence, I think, are going to be the other couple big pushes that we'll see that will make a big impact, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years and be very disruptive. And that's going to be very exciting times because, like with any big innovation, we won't know what we have in front of us until it starts to evolve.
Yeah. 110%, 110%. You know what? Thank you so much, Brandon, for being a part of today's live episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, A Guide podcast. Brandon, I want to ask you, man, what is one takeaway that you want to give to the people who want to build something big during this moment in time in life?
One takeaway. That's a good question.
One takeaway.
I mean, I would say dream big. And
dream big.
Dream big. And I know that might be a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But let me tell you, let me provide you a little context behind that. I'm a big, somewhat long-winded sometimes, and I'm a storyteller. When I was at Cal Poly, we had to do a senior project in order to graduate. Being industrial technology, engineering, business, most of my colleagues were going in and doing projects for Boeing and you name it, these theoretical projects that look great on the resume. I came up with a different idea that I wanted to build something fun and make a lasting mark. And so I set out and sat in my senior project announcement meeting with, everybody that was going to be graduating. And I announced that I was going to build a backpack karaoke machine because I wanted to be different. And everybody laughed at me. And the professor, who I'll never forget, he was like, "That's different." Said, "Okay, you're going to have to build a prototype." And my heart sank because I was like, what did I just get myself into? And, it was the fire in the belly that actually really got me going. I remember feeling that people told me I couldn't do it or challenge whether or not I was going to be successful. And I think that is that dream big and have that fierce want and desire to make it happen. And I'll never forget when I built that prototype and I came into a large auditorium with over 85 people in it, and I started rapping to an Eminem song out of the backpack karaoke machine, and I got a standing applause.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of colleagues of mine come up to me and said, "I can't believe you actually did this."
Yeah.
That was a great feeling. And even to this day, I think that product has a fighting chance. If I had some extra time on my hands and didn't have 3 kids, I might go back to that. And I had a great name for it. A friend of mine helped me come up with a marketing pitch. It was going to be called the Pakioke.
Wow, dude, that's amazing. That's amazing. But I think the power.
Dream big. Yeah, dream big and have something fierce in you that helps you drive towards that desire of whatever that is. And look at the data that you have in front of you. Realize what mistakes that you have. They're not mistakes. It's a learning curve, and you're building a base of what not to do next and what better decisions you can make in the future. And I think as long as an entrepreneur, you do that, and that's why everybody says you have to fail quickly and fail multiple times. You're building experience, and you can't take that away from anybody. And that's what it comes down to. Keep fighting.
That's true.
Keep fighting.
That's true. I love that, Brandon. Thank you so much for sharing that with the amazing community. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people who are like, man, I'm going to be fighting a lot after this, right?
Well, don't steal my idea about the Pakioke. I'm going to patent it after this podcast.
Brandon, where can the people connect with you and the work that you're doing with SaaS Growth Ventures?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. SaaSgrowthVentures.com, or find us on LinkedIn, Brandon L. Drew at SaaS Growth Ventures. I'm pretty responsive in terms of direct messages on LinkedIn, as well as my email, Brandon at SaaSgrowthVentures.com. So
sweet. Thank you so much, Brandon, for joining us. And we should definitely have you on a future episode of Unleashing the Future of Work.
Anytime. It's always been a pleasure.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
If you loved today's live episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast, make sure to tell someone, share this with your network. In addition, please, if you're interested in being a guest on a future episode, please check out UTFOW.com. Check out UTFOW.com or a sponsor. Let us know on UTFOW.com, as well as if you're interested in the early beta for Guide app. It's coming out in less than T-3 weeks. We're building. Check it out. We're looking for amazing, awesome, super smart content creators who want to be a part of something amazing. So check out guideapp.co. All right. With that said, talk to you soon.